Hi everyone. So, what I'd like to do today is explain a little bit about how the brain works. So this video is relevant to you if you've ever, or at the moment, if you're feeling a little bit low, you're feeling a bit frustrated, that you're not quite firing on all cylinders and you don't know why it is. Perhaps you're not performing as well as you should do at work, and you can't quite put your finger on it. Just things are just not going right in life. But also, if you're doing really well, but you want to even do better, and perhaps for example, on a scaling of 0 to 10, 10 being the best, if you're sitting up at an 8 and a 9 already, but actually you want to perform better and become that real high flyer and high achiever that you want to be, and this is going to be really relevant for you as well. So this diagram, and what I'm going to explain to you about the basis of this actually comes from a guy called David Newton, one of my mentors a while back, so I'd just like to say thank you very much to him for that, if you're watching, and Matthew Cahill as well. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain how the brain works. So, David, age 5 drawing, so do forgive me here. Yes, there we go. Right, so, here is the brain, and we're looking sort of side on, obviously. This little area here, LPC, the left prefrontal cortex, it is a conscious part of the brain, okay? So it's a bit that sits at the front of the brain here. There is 4 of them, the left and right prefrontal cortex on the left side of the brain, left and right on the right side of the brain. But for ease, what we're talking about is the left prefrontal cortex. It's the conscious part. If you know a guy called David Rock, what he'll term it as the working memory. It's the bit that allows us, for you to watch this, the bit that allows us to interact together, the bit allows you to interact with your friends and family and colleagues and strangers or whatever. So, at the moment it's attached to this lovely, vast intellectual resource. And this is the intellectual mind, this whole area up here. And when you are working from this part of the brain, you're generally getting things right in life. You're generally feeling very positive, I say, you're feeling good about things. You know those days when you wake up in the morning, it doesn't matter what happens, everything's just going well. I mean, somebody maybe even beeps up at you or cuts you up as you're driving to work, and you just laugh it off, and there's really, really good space, high vibe, etc. That's very much what that is, and that's of course where we want to be, and where I will make sure, hopefully after this, that you can get yourself back up to there. So, unfortunately, there is another part of the brain. In the centre and the most influential part of the brain here, in this lower area, is called the amygdala. Known as the fight, flight, freeze area of the brain that you may well have heard of. This is the limbic system, again, anyone that's done psychology at school or uni or whatever. The limbic system is a lower area. And the amygdala is there, what we termed before is the fire officer, if you like. So if there's any danger, let's imagine you're at work and the fire alarm goes off and it's not a test. Everyone files out, goes and stands in the grass, of course, and the fire officer makes sure that all happens, everybody's accounted for. It takes over, the situation. And the amygdala is very much the same. If we're in a dangerous situation, or a perceived dangerous situation, then the amygdala very much steps in and takes over. This area is associated with 2 other very primitive parts. The hippocampus. Now this is the little HC, the little library of the brain. It stores all of the inappropriate thoughts, the behavioural patterns, experiences. So that frustration that you've had with your other half, that he or she said something yesterday and it's still frustrating you a little bit. Perhaps the looming divorce that's going on, or the issues that are happening at work, or the deadlines that you're not meeting, whatever it is that you're dealing with that you don't have control over, very much sits in that hippocampus. And the hippocampus also is what we term as a stress bucket. You might have heard of that before as well. Stress bucket, quite simply, stores all of that stuff. It's the same thing. And then the hypothalamus, hypothalamus, it regulates all the chemical responses in the body and the mind. So when you're feeling really stressed, when you're on edge, if you like, then it's the cortisol, the adrenalines, etc., that are very much released from that part of the brain there. So, Working from this part of the brain, we're calm, we're relaxed, we're easy, things are going really well, it's where you should be if you're not there at the moment. Of course, we can go up and down slightly. You basically should be living your life there on a high, just really feeling good. Or this lower area here, again, the limbic system, the amygdala, hippocampus, which is the stress bucket if you like, and the hypothalamus there. So, what else can we say? So the stress bucket fills up. And how does the stress bucket fill up? So any frustrations that you've had throughout the day, we get a little bit in our bucket and it just continues to fill up and up and up. So any worries, I say, that you've had of something happen in the past, or anything that you perhaps are worrying about in the future as well, that's going to fill this bucket up. And the more and more, this is the issue here, the more and more that you fill this bucket up, the more that this part of the brain perceives that you're in some sort of danger. So it has to step in to help. So let me explain that a little bit more. Consciously here, this is the bit that's allowing us to have this interaction, this is the bit that's allowing you to make sense of this. The rest of the brain is subconscious, unconscious. In other words, it's not aware of what's going on. Now we think, well, fair enough, but when you put it into context here, now there's a few different kind of thoughts around this, but you'll be able to see the kind of the contrast between the conscious and the subconscious here. Consciously, we have roughly 40 actions every second. Some people say a bit more, some people say a bit less. 40 actions every second 40 actions every minute, apologies. 40 actions every single minute. It sounds quite a lot, doesn't it? I mean, it's virtually one every second. But of course, when you recognise that the subconscious, this area here, the intellectual part, and the primitive part of the brain, when it has up to 40 million actions every minute, then you can start to see really the difference here. Now, it's a good job that it does, because it does all these automatic responses for us. Our habitual behaviour is basically what is dealt with in here. So my hands moving around, regulating my body temperature and my movement, etc., keeping me balanced. And those skills and tasks that we do, that we just take for granted, cleaning our teeth, obviously, cooking meals, tying our shoelaces, riding bikes, driving cars, whatever it is, it all happens automatically, subconsciously, unconsciously, of course. When you jump in the car, you know how easy that is. So it takes all those things on. The frustrating thing is because this has no intellect, subconscious, then it can't differentiate between good and bad habits. So it might start to give you a little bit of an understanding now. When you've only got so many actions every minute or so, and this big old powerful machine is driving you, and your habitual behaviour is not going in the direction that you want it to go, all you do is give yourself a bit of a hard time, don't you? Why am I not feeling this? Why am I not doing what I should be doing? But now you can start to see that this big old brain, the rest of the brain, starts to kind of rule our life. It does rule our life, of course. But what we want to do is make sure it rules it in a good way. So why do these things happen? So, when our bucket fills up more and more, and what fills our bucket up? Overthinking, over-worrying, over-analysing. That type of thing. It's all in our mind. Our thoughts create our feelings create our actions, and actions produce our results. So what are your thoughts? What's the foundation of your thoughts, and what are they saying to you, and obviously affecting the world? So the more that you have negative thoughts, every negative thought that you have, let's say it's a frustration with your other half, he or she said something, you say, why did you say that? That's really unfair. And it sticks with you a little bit. Again, at work, perhaps your boss is overbearing, perhaps you have issues at work that you need to be dealt with, that are not being dealt with properly. And each time it just fills up a little bit more in your bucket. Now, remember, subconscious here is the primitive emotional part of the brain, the intellectual subconscious part of the brain. So the more and more this bucket fills up, the more that this part of the brain starts to take over. It starts to take over as the amygdala starts to step in. And let me explain this to you. So imagine you leave wherever you are today, and you're just about to jump in the car or whatever you're going to do. And you run into this crazy wild animal, this wild man, this drunk person, whatever it is, and they come up to you and confront you. Now what are you going to do? Your anxiety levels are going to go up, obviously, and your stress levels are going to go up. And what happens is you're going to move from that lovely, nice, calm, relaxed, easy-going part of the brain that's peaceful and still, and you're going to move down into this primitive, emotional part of the brain. As we spoke about before, the fire officer, obviously there's danger, isn't there? So the amygdala is going to step in. It's going to take over. And the hypothalamus is going to regulate the chemicals. So what's going to happen? The adrenaline and the cortisol are going to be pumped out, and you're going to be ready for the fight, or ready for whatever it is. Fight, flight, or freeze. So you're either going to hit them, or whatever you do, run away, or freeze with the danger. Now, under those crazy, ridiculous circumstances, that'd be entirely appropriate, wouldn't it? But unfortunately, it's exactly the same in life. When the anxiety levels go up, when the stress levels go up, when the worries, when the overthinking, when the overworrying, when the overanalyzing goes up and up and up, you start now to live more in this primitive emotional part of the brain down here. And unfortunately, it can only work within the parameters of what we term as depression, anxiety, or anger. Now, you don't have to be depressed, anxious, or angry to be in here. Again, they're just labels. So in terms of depression, you could just be feeling a little bit low. You could be feeling a little bit frustrated. You could be just like, I really want to get on at work, but I just cannot be bothered. I can't seem to get the energy. I wake up feeling as if I haven't really slept, even though I've slept really heavily. All these kind of things are relating to that, of course. Anxiety, again, it doesn't need to be some full-blown panic attack, but it can be. But it can be perhaps more something just like that kind of tight chestedness, or that real feeling of uncomfortableness. You can't seem to pinpoint it, but you just don't really like it. You don't like being in public. You'd rather just stay in on your own, and every time you go into public spaces, or perhaps you go in enclosed spaces, the tube or the train or a plane or whatever, you become a little bit panicky. And again, of course, anger, it doesn't need to be full-blown anger again, but it can be that sharpness. You know, when you say something, you're very sharp, very quick at somebody at work, when they say something, you just think, oh God, they didn't deserve that. Why did I speak like that to them? All these type of things, of course, they push you down in here. And how does that happen? Because you've been overthinking, over-worrying, over-analysing. And remember, it's your perception of the event. Two people, both of them going through exams, both of them with the same target, excuse me, both of them with the same targets, for example, and the job. Then one person might see it in one way and one person might see it in another. So it's a perception, a perception surrounding the events. So, bucket fills up and up and up, starts to push you down into this area of the brain, taking you from here, where you're calm, you're relaxed, excuse me, you're calm, you're relaxed, everything's going really well, pushing you down into this lower area down here. Angry, anxious, depressed, or frustrated, etc. So how does that happen? Again, I've touched on that already, but let's just go over that. Overthinking, over-worrying, over-analysing. Then continue to fill this bucket up. And remember, the hippocampus, that's the stress bucket. That's where all the thought patterns are stored. If they're overthinking or they're over-worrying, if they're anxious thoughts, and they're stored in here, and this fills up the bucket. So we'll talk about how to get over this, of course, in a moment, but let me just continue to talk a little bit more about this first. So, frustrated, can't seem to get over yourself, annoyed at life even though there's no need to be. And you think, why am I feeling like this? Life's good, you know, I've got a good family, I've got all these good things going on in my life, but it's because you're living with that full bucket. Now, thankfully, there's a way to empty this bucket, and it's called REM sleep, REM, rapid eye movement. We have about 4 periods of REM sleep every evening. Now, unfortunately, we're restricted to about 20% in terms of emptying a bucket, of dealing with what we've got to deal with, because we've got to repair our muscles and everything else that we've got to do during the night. So restricted to about 20%. So let's imagine that you wake up here and you go back into the same routine, the same habitual behaviour of complaining about him, complaining about her, frustrated at that, talking about all the worries and the frustrations that you have in your life. What's going to happen? You're going to fill your bucket back up again. And then, of course, the next evening, you're going to empty it by that 20%. And then, of course, you're going to fill it back up again because you're worrying, overthinking, overanalyzing again. And as you can see, now you can see why a huge amount of society live with that half to 3/4 full bucket. They're never giving themselves the opportunity to empty that bucket. Empty bucket means no worries, etc. in here, means that you're able to live in this part of the brain, which means you're more calm, you're more relaxed, you're more rational, you're able to cope better, you're able to see things a lot better. See things a lot clearer. So that's what we need to do to an extent. But what else do we need to do? How can you change? What's the action, the things that you can do? So first of all, that's a G. You need to stop thinking negatively. Sounds kind of obvious, doesn't it? But you need to stop that. You need to stop filling up your bucket. You need to give the normal biological system every evening during REM sleep, you need to give it the opportunity to get rid of that stuff. Because if you don't negatively think, it will drop each evening because you're not negatively thinking during the day. So it will drop and continue to drop. Well, that happens the more you live here, the more positive, the more at ease things you are. But there's 3 other key areas, of course, that we need to look at and make sure. I've mentioned this in previous videos. It's the 3 Ps. The first one is positive thinking. Make sure that you have positive thinking. Make sure not only that you're not negatively thinking, you're thinking about how you want things to do, how you want things to be. Now, it's nothing new. Socrates, nearly 2,500 years ago, would say, focus all of your energy on how you want things to be, not on how you don't want them to be. So, solution-focused process is nothing new. But so you must focus on how you want things to be, not on how you don't want things to be. And there's a nice little exercise for you to do. Tomorrow morning when you wake up and you're starting, at 9 o'clock or whatever, get a little bit of paper out and mark down, annotate, put a little dash down every time you think negatively. For a 10-minute period, for half an hour, for an hour. Now I want you to really, really concentrate on that and really be consciously aware, because what will happen is naturally your mind will just move into the subconscious and you'll drift on with your day. So become consciously aware, and that's why it's good to do it just for 5 or 10 minutes, and mark down all the times that you think negatively. And then times that by the hour. And then times that by 16 or 18 or however many hours that you stay up that you're awake during the day. And then you'll start to see the hundreds of thousands of times. And it can just be small things like, oh, I'm frustrated with that. Oh God, why did he not let me out there at the green light? Oh, I'm never going to get work in time. Oh, that frustrated me yesterday. All these different small things that are going through our minds. How much of them are in there? Annotate that down and you'll probably be quite surprised, and no wonder you're filling up your bucket. So, thinking positively, very, very important. So not only not thinking negatively, you're thinking about how you want things to be. You're focusing on the positive aspects of your future. Another one, easy again for me to spell, interaction. I should say interaction. So, positive interaction. You know when you go out for lunch with your friends or your family, you feel really good about it. You know that feeling, think that was really good before you drink wine, of course. You know that feeling, just that interaction with other people and just spending time with good people, how good you feel, of course. That's all part of it. That's the chemicals that have been released from here in a good way. And the third one is physical activity. It's not rocket science. Change is simple, it's just not necessarily an easy thing to do. It's a simple thing, but it's not easy. Very, very simple, but I just need to think positively. I just need to not think negatively. I need to think positively, I need to go out and get involved in society, and I need to make sure I'm doing some sort of physical exercise. Yes, that's pretty much it. It really isn't rocket science. So why are you not changing? Well, if it's that easy, why am I not changing? Because we've only got 40 or so actions every minute here, and we've got 40 million that are running our life. So and remember that because there is no intellect in this whole subconscious, It can't differentiate between good and bad habits. A good job it doesn't for some things, so we don't forget how to clean our teeth, etc. But of course, those bad habits that you have, smoking, drinking, whatever it is, of course, just thinking negatively is a bad habit, then you're not able to get over that. You're not able to get over yourself. There's so much going in that particular direction. Thinking positive, positive interaction and physical activity. And of course, making sure that we quash those negative thoughts. That will allow that to go down. Now, remember, whether you're aware of this or not, we've been doing this for years. Roughly 1.5 million years, approximately. Because stresses and strains have always been with us. If you can remember back in the or imagine back in the caveman days, etc., there was certain things that were done from an evolutionary point of view. They made us feel good, so that it would make sure that we would continue. Eating, of course, makes you feel good. Procreating is a good thing to do, it's good fun, so of course you're going to feel better doing it. So that's why we keep doing these things. So these individuals in those days, of course, they got rewards. They had no idea what they were. Neuroscience now tells us what those rewards are. But they kept on doing them. It was something that made them feel good, so they wanted to keep on doing those things. They wanted to successfully support themselves and their families. They wanted to work in tribal groups because it was safer. They had to hunt and gather, of course, to collect their food. They had to run after whatever it is they did. So they had to do these things. So all we're doing is the same thing in principle, like our ancestors did. We're not doing anything different. So they say change is very, very simple, just not an easy thing to do. And I hope that starts to make more sense, I'm sure. So remember, quash those negative thoughts. Think positively. Interact positively with people. Get out on the bike, walking, cycling, running, jumping, swimming, whatever it is that you need to do. Get out and do all these things. Focus on how you want things to be. Whether that's you're feeling low because you're sitting on the couch and you really can't get out, you've not been out for a while, or you're at that stage of higher level performance and you really want to push even further. This is the key aspect really here. The more that we empty this bucket, the more that you're able to live in this part of the brain. And that really is the place that we all want to be. So, I hope all that makes sense. Please check out any of my other videos and I hope to see you all again soon.